they could have 3 losses by now.
I don't know about that.
They are not that
For
good.
Florida State in there, I would say yes to that, what you just said.
Punt return by Caleb Downs. And he finds a seam. He makes the punter look silly. Caleb Downs, show him what you got. Touchdown, Bama.
5-minute drive now for UTEP. And they will keep it on the ground. Ewan just gets pile-driven by Stutzman.
Really haven't even tried from the shotgun. That throw's intercepted. Pierce down the sideline. Touchdown.
Claiborne, the sophomore, has 1 score so far this season. Griffiths will buy a little bit of time. Falling down, lost the football. Play is still live. And recovered by the Monarchs. Lamarian James will take it the other way for the ODU touchdown.
Welcome back to Devy IDP Grind. I'm at Hollywood Titan, and I'm joined by my co-host Justice. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. I don't. My brain's a little bit tired. I spent my day matching 1,032 defensive players for my scoring program.
Oof. Well, thank you, and I'm glad you're doing it, not me.
Yeah, I mean most of it I was able to do automatically, like being able to do like some basic matches, like name matches and stuff. And I think I got like 18,000 players matched that way. But then I had a handful of players that just won't match because, like the easiest example I can give you is Fantrax calls them Kool-Aid McKinstry, and the stat source calls them JaQuincy McKinstry. Well, it's never going to match because the names aren't the same. And so anyway, I went through those. When I went to those, I pared it down to only players that had a defensive position. And then it was like I said, just over 1,000 players. So I had to go through those one by one and find their IDs so I can match them up so that I can score them when the season starts for all our leagues. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I'd say, whew. Yeah, they need to really fix their scoring.
Yeah, well, I sent them an email yesterday about we're going to talk about this in the news, so I'll just go ahead and talk about it now. Mohamed Toure, the defensive end from Rutgers, tore his ACLs out for the season. It happened, I don't know, 3 days ago or something. But if you go on Fantrax, he doesn't have a red flag. And there's no note about him tearing his ACL. So I sent support an email yesterday and saying, hey, like, you guys should update his status. So they emailed me back today and said, thank you. The news for the link for defensive players, the news link is broke. We're trying to work and fix it as we speak. Hopefully it will be fixed soon. And I just laughed, right? I don't know. That's just Fantrax when it comes to defensive players, right? Like, they really don't.
Oh my God! No, they really don't. It's amazing because if they would just put a little effort into, like you said, fixing the injuries for IDPs, just getting the basic scoring for IDPs, where people like you don't have to go set up their own model and take time to do it. If they would just do the simple things, they could put the rest of the market as far as formats. They could put a hurting on them with this Devy stuff.
They could. They could. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to badmouth them because, like, I'm thankful that we have it, right? Like,
right.
But there's just so many little things. They don't take care of the little details. Like, I'm in an NFL league over there, and Divine Diablo has eligibility at a cornerback. Like, how does that make any sense? The dude's played linebacker for how many years now for the Raiders? And he has eligibility as a cornerback? Like, just, I don't know. they don't pay attention to the finer details like that. And I don't know, like it becomes it's. And I think what is so frustrating is, to your point, is because what they offer is good, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, the customization rivals my fantasy league, and it's free. And so,
Exactly.
like, if they could just get these little details right, man, they could do so much better. But they don't. I don't know. Like, I mentioned in our listener league yesterday, I was having issues with their database, and they just do crazy things. Like, for instance, like 2 years ago, the abbreviation for Charlotte, the University of North Carolina Charlotte, was UNCC.
Right.
Last year, the abbreviation, they changed it to CHAR. This year, they changed it back to UNCC. And when you do
Oh my
things like,
God.
like it just like that's just like basic database management stuff. Like, they just don't. There's no rhyme or
Yeah.
reason to why they do what they do. Like Bama, they changed that one. It used to be LAALA. Now it's Bama. Like,
Right.
it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, a lot. Like, I think what the problem is they don't do that work. They rely on their stat provider to do all the work, and as we all know, their stat provider is not the greatest. So
Yeah. I wish they could get a better stat provider, and I wish, like you kind of said, the little things, right? Just and kind of what I said too, just like, bring back the IDP scoring and fix your injury updates and just little things like that, and be consistent with it. I mean, you could really they could really put a hurting on the other formats, because Devy in general is growing, and they're the only one that offers it. So why not capitalize on that? And it just blows my mind that they refuse or don't care or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm with you on that. So we've already started with the news and notes. We talked about Edge Mohamed Torre is out for the season with a torn ACL. He also tore his ACL
yeah, it's the
in
second one.
22. So yeah, not
Not
good when
good.
you. Is
No.
that the same?
I couldn't find. I tried to find if it was the same knee. I couldn't find anything that said it was or it wasn't. So I really don't know. But yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good either way, but it'd be really bad if it was the same knee twice in a 3 year span. That would definitely not be good.
Yeah, if it's the
Um,
same one, I would assume his career's probably done. But
yeah, if it wouldn't, it'd be pretty close. North Texas safety Ashim Young is out for the season with a knee injury.
and that's a big loss for them, because when we interviewed Brett Vito on the G5 Hive, like he said time and time again how crucial it was to get Ashim Young, how well he fit that system, how they went out and recruited him specifically for that system, and then that he was going to be the man at safety for him, and he's done for the year now.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, anytime you get injured, it sucks. But when you're forced to miss the whole year and you're a team that's counting on a player stepping up, kind of like a Jordan Thomas for the Vols, they were expecting him to play that star position for them, and he's out for the year too with an injury. So, um, be interesting to see who steps up for Young in his place. Do you have any idea who that might be, or?
I don't know. I mean, they brought in a ton of transfers to that, to that defense as a whole. I know when we talked to Brett, he said, like they run a 3-3-5, and last year they did not have the personnel to really run the deep run it properly, and so that's why he says that's why the defense was so bad, and so they went and recruited folks specifically to run that defense. I know Young was a key part. I mean, obviously someone's going to take his spot, but based on what he said, I don't know that I would expect anywhere near the same type of production from somebody else.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and nothing else. He was coming from the SEC, man. He was at Ole Miss, and like
Yeah.
they ain't got another Ole Miss guy on the roster to, you know what I mean? So, yeah, huge loss for them.
Yeah. The MAC, I saw this today. The MAC they're going to introduce availability reports for the 2024 season, and reports must be submitted no later than 3 hours before the kickoff of each game. So, um, I think we've talked about this in the past. I think we'd all love to see this, and I think gambling has kind of driven this, um, along with fantasy sports and all that. So, getting injury reports or availability reports, I think is you're going to start to see that be the norm around college football. But I'll take it.
That's
I mean, it helps with all the unknowns with injuries and no real regulations. I'll take
and,
this, right? I mean,
and I got to tell you, this is huge because, like, if
yeah,
you told me I could only pick one conference, it would be the MAC because, like,
yeah, yes,
the coverage for the MAC is slim, very slim.
yeah,
Most of the folks we interviewed for the MAC were student reporters at the school newspapers because they just don't have beat reporters that. I mean, there are some for sure, but there's not.
right,
There's certainly not a beat reporter that covers every single team, and so of all the teams or all the conferences, I should say, the MAC is like the hardest one to kind of get information on, and so this is winner chicken dinner, buddy. To be able to get this kind of information out of the MAC. Now,
yeah. This is pretty huge.
one kind of negative thing I think folks saw last year, because the Big Ten started doing it last year, is now the coaches, instead of telling you, hey, Joe has a torn ACL and he ain't playing this week, they say, oh, well, you can wait for the injury report to come out right before the game. You know what I mean? Like they're like, well, we ain't gonna tell you shit now, or excuse my language, they're not gonna tell you anything anymore. You can wait for the report to come out. So
Right.
it's
Which kind
got
of plays into the coach's favor, right? They get to hide stuff a little bit. Yeah. Well, not really hide, but they get to keep it to themselves to the last possible minute.
and sometimes they do, right? Whereas before maybe they would have told
Yeah.
you, but now they're like, screw it. You can wait till the report comes out.
Yep. But I mean, like you said, this is huge. I think we're going to see more of this with college football. Um, at least it's something, right? Like you said, the MAC is hard enough to find stuff on. It's not like the SEC where you've got beat reporters for every school and they're kind of reporting, nonstop. So at least this is some kind of help for us in fantasy, right? I mean, not knowing whether to start somebody because you don't know if they're hurt or not. You leave them in, they don't start, and then you're out points, right? So at least you've got 3 hours to kind of make a decision or whatever. So I think we're headed in the right direction. So at least it's something.
Yeah, absolutely.
The NCAA announced the transfer portal windows for this upcoming year. So the winter portal is going to start on December the 9th, and it's going to end on January the 7th. And then you're going to have a second portal, or transfer portal window open up in the spring, and it's only going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be April 16th through April 30th, and this is subject to change, something to do with 45 to 30, a switch from 45 to 30 days or something like that. Anyway, um, this is the two dates that's in place right now. So the first one's going to be during bowl season. That's December the 9th through January 7th. That's through bowl season, right? Through your New Year's 6-day bowl.
Yeah, which it was the same way last year, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bigger window. You're looking at almost a full month in the winter, where the spring you've only got 2 weeks, which I'm okay with that. I mean, you're going 3 or 4 months before you hit that second window, because you got to get that second one in April because your spring games are starting, right? Or some of them's already
Spring
started. So at
game.
least yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that April one's kind of early. because I feel like this year it was in May, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was in May, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yes,
Yeah, because that's
if I'm
like
not mistaken, it was.
I wonder how many. I wonder if teams will now, based on that information, if they will rethink when they have their spring practice and spring games.
Very possible.
Will they
Do
put
they
it off
move on
till
to the?
late, as late as they can to try to avoid people leaving, or will they just do it early so that they know who's leaving and who's staying? Some different strategies could play out.
Yeah, if it was me, I think I would want to have my if these dates stay right. If they stay April 16th through the 30th, I think I would want my spring game to be in those first 2 weeks of April, from April 1st to April 14th. I'd want my spring game right there. Then your portal window opens up for 2 weeks. Then okay, you kind of got to look at what you have on your team, right? Because you've had your spring game, your practices. You kind of got a feel for what you have roster wise. The portal opens. You see who leaves. You see who hits the portal that might be available. And then you can feel, if you need to, you can replace players or maybe upgrade positions. That's just me if I was a coach. I'd want my spring game and practices before that second portal window opens, because if you wait till after, you're stuck with kind of what you got. If you have your spring game in uh, May the 1st or 2nd or 3rd, whatever, that first week of May, somebody gets hurt, then what do you do? I mean, you have to go with what's on your roster pretty much. So, I mean, for me, I think I would have mine the 1st of April.
Yeah.
I mean, you about have to just to have a safety net for yourself and your team, right? I mean, if somebody was, I mean, you may not have any intentions of hitting the portal and picking up players, but maybe you got a spring game and knock on wood, somebody gets hurt and you don't really have any depth there, then at least you've got that 2 weeks to try to find somebody to help, replace your player or whatever. So, but those are the dates:
Well,
December 9th through January 7th, and April
looks like
16th
it
through
was
the
the
30th.
same this year, so I was wrong. I thought it was later in May, but Dynasty Coach A says it was basically the same time.
Yeah, he was saying the same thing. I don't know why I thought it was in May. I was like you. I
I
was
thought
thinking
it
it
was
was a
in
little
May
later.
too, but yeah.
Yeah. Then I heard this: UConn is possibly going to make the move to the Big 12. Kind of one of those things where there's smoke, there's fire. The way it was put is they don't want to be left out as far as being an independent for football. They want to be somewhere where it can kind of mean something. So I think the Big 12 will be a good fit for them.
I mean, I guess the only attraction is men and women's basketball, right? Because like their football team is not good. They're not going to be good in the Big 12, but men's and women's basketball they're elite. So
Yeah,
that's got to be the attraction, I guess. It's do you want to put up with the bad football to gain the basketball program? I guess is and then I mean them and Notre Dame are the only two independents left, and Notre Dame's not like, I mean, they are an independent, but they're kind of quasi ACC.
yeah, and I think they'll eventually have to join a conference at some point. I think being an independent's going to bite you somewhere along the way, because they don't have a super strong schedule this year, and you don't have a conference championship game if you're an independent. So that's just it kind of hurts you when you're sitting there alone like that. Yeah, and coach says graduate transfers were allowed to May 1st, so maybe that's what I was thinking. I knew there was something went into May, but yeah. I'm curious to what you're going to think about this one. Oklahoma State will wear QR codes on the back of their helmets this season, which will link you to a donations page for their NIL collections. and I've seen the logo. It's real small. Actually even heard somebody talk about it. That logo has to be smaller than some of the other logos that's on the helmet because it's regulated by the NCAA. So you may put a QR code on there, but they're going to tell you how big it can be or where it can be. So because they still regulate all uniforms and stuff like that. But
The
how crazy is this? A QR code on the back of your damn helmet.
Well, check this out. So what if like we could, what if Grant Wilson for ODU throws a touchdown and I can send him $30 instantly? How cool would that be, right? Now see, like in the case of Oklahoma State, it's not going to a specific player, it's going to the NIL and they're going to divvy it out, whatever. But imagine a world where like, hey, your quarterback throws 5 touchdowns and you cash app him $50. Now
Yeah,
the
and I
flip
was
side
listening
is
to it on the
the flip side is what if he throws 5 interceptions so you can ask him for money?
right. And they were talking about the. I think it was Fox Sports Radio I was listening to the morning on the drive to work. And they were talking about, and they kind of said the same thing that you did. LeVar Arrington made the comment. He's like, I wonder how much they'll make, right? And I think it was Brady Queen or Jonas Knox, whichever one it was. But he's like, they kind of mentioned that it would be more of an in-game happening, kind of like you said. Like, what if so and so's thrown 5 touchdowns, or he's got 200 yards receiving? As a fan, you're going to be super excited, and more often than not, you're going to be like, "Hey, let me throw this guy $20 for such a game." It's not just "Hey, I love Oklahoma State" or whoever. I want to donate, but it's like in the heat of the moment, heat of the game thing. That's probably where they're going to make their biggest money.
Yeah, and would it be cool if it actually worked that way, right? Like, if Ollie Gordon scores 5 touchdowns, if I could, Venmo Ollie Gordon $20, right? I mean, that's not the way it's going to work, but it'd be pretty cool if it did, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could set it up that way if they wanted to. I mean, if you're setting up a link, you could, but I'm like it's going to a collective, so it's going to be split. But yes, 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 I support this message. That's the first good thing you've said yet, right there. Yes, and believe me, it ain't for a lack of trying to get them to sponsor me. That's for sure. um, don't know if you've seen it. The new Fansville commercial by Dr. Pepper's out. It's got Quinn Ewers in it as a deputy, and it also takes a jab at the Michigan cheating scandal. I love these commercials. I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, I have not seen that one yet. I'll have to go look for it.
Yeah, you'll have to go check it out. It's pretty good. I love them. That kind of does it for the new. Well, no, we got one more. Have you seen the SEC's official tiebreaker that they posted?
No, I haven't.
So there's no divisions this year, right? It's all 16 teams are in one division. So, of course, if you're tied, the first tiebreaker is head-to-head competition among the teams that are tied, that's standard and the way it should be. Next would be record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams. Then it would go to record against highest, quote unquote, best placed common conference opponent in the conference standings, and proceedings through the conference standings among tied teams. Then it goes to a cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents, and then a capped relative total scoring margin versus all conference opponents. So, and then if it gets down to the next one, it's a random draw of the tied teams. So, I would imagine head to head cures most of this, right? I mean, I guess it depends on how many teams you're going to have tied, but your head to head would solve most of it, I would think.
Well,
and then probably your common opponent is next.
I mean, because they don't play everybody, so
yeah. So yeah, they've got new official tiebreakers in place this year. Be interesting to see. I don't know how I feel about this not having divisions in the SEC. It's going to feel weird. I'm used to having an East and a West. I don't know. Feels weird.
The only conference that still has divisions is the Sun Belt. It's the only one. Everybody else has gotten rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels weird. I guess after having something for so long and it changes like that.
Yeah, for sure,
Different.
right?
But,
I mean, like, the Tennessee was what in the East, right?
yeah, we were in the East. Bama was in the West. So.
Here in the East with Florida and Georgia and Kentucky.
Florida, Georgia, Missouri, South Carolina, Kentucky, Vandy. Yeah. Yep. Our 5-star topic tonight, we just finished up our Devy IDP Grind Listener League draft. So we're going to go over the IDPs of the league. This is probably where we lose John because he hates IDP. So we'll probably see him disappear here in a minute. But anyway, we're going to go over, we'll see how far we get. We're going to start with the first round and go through all the IDPs that we can, what we think about them, if we have thoughts. If not, we'll move on. But the craziness started early.
Oh my God.
And this is not your
I
normal.
I wouldn't even call it crazy. Like, to me, it's just pure insanity. Like I don't. Yeah. Like we might need to do a wellness check on Dougie.
Yeah, our boy Dougie, who we play with in a bunch of leagues, jumped the gun on everyone. And I don't know if he thought I was going to go take this player early. He took Sammy Brown, linebacker.
And he traded up to this pick.
Yeah, he traded up with me.
He traded you. That's right.
Yes. So I originally had the 5th overall pick, and he's like, "What do you want for this pick?" And I was like, "I don't know," because I just there wasn't really anybody I was crazy about, and the ones I thought, like Jeremiah Smith, Lagway, Dylan Raiola, they all went in the top 4. Micah Hudson was the other one, and I was like, okay, my guys are gone that I really want here, so I'll trade back. And he takes Sammy Brown, so I don't know if he thought somebody else after he traded with me, if he thought somebody else would jump the gun. Normally, you don't see an IDP go in the top 5. That just don't happen.
Not in the top 5, not even in the first round. They usually don't go till like the second round.
Right. I mean, every once in a while you'll see something maybe towards the back end of the first. Somebody will kind of jump the gun, and I've been guilty of that. But in the top 5, that's like you said, that's just freaking insanity. I was shocked that he done that because I thought he was moving up to maybe go after Ryan Williams or Julian Sane, somebody like that. And I was like, I had to look at it 2 or 3 times to make sure I was looking at it correctly.
I assumed it was either Ryan Williams or Cam Coleman, and it was neither one of them.
But yeah, so our first defensive player off the board was linebacker Sammy Brown, who I love. The pick itself,
great player, but like 1.5, man. Even I don't know. Like, I don't even know when I took my first defensive player, but like I wouldn't consider a defensive player most likely for the first. I don't know. I mean, there are some I'd consider in the first 5 rounds, but it's probably not a freshman.
Right. And I guess it depends on your needs and, like what your team really needs and all that. But if you strip away what round he took it in, I like the pick, right? I think he got probably the best defensive player in this class. Brown's probably going to start.
But he might not be the best defensive player in the draft that was available in this draft. Maybe in the freshman class, sure. But
yeah, in the freshman class, yes. 4 years of control, right? He's probably going to, if he doesn't start this year, he's probably going to at least play a lot from what I've been seeing and hearing. I watched the spring game. He looked good. So, I like the pick, but at 105, that's way too early. I dropped all the way to, what was it, pick 5th, or I got
Well,
12 and 15, and even at those picks, 12 and 15, that's probably still a little too early for him, right? I mean,
maybe the
for
15,
me, I would have
maybe. I
considered
mean,
it at
like, if
15. Yeah.
yeah, if you really wanted him, I could see you taking a 15 because he probably would have went in the first 5 picks in the second round. If like you would have asked me
See,
before,
that's kind of what
I would have said he went in the first 5 picks of the second round.
and see, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking Dougie was going to move up for Williams or Coleman or Julian Saying. And I was like, okay, I can move back to 12 and have 15, right? 2 picks and a 4 pick stretch. I could probably still get Sammy Brown here. And then he took Sammy Brown at 5 and just screwed my whole board up. So, yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. So he took Brown at 5. Then it was Julian Sayin, Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman, Garrett Nussmeyer, David Izanume, T.J. Moore, Ricky Hunt, Marlon Graham, Quentin Martin, Chris Brazell, and Courtney Crutchfield rounded out your first round. Um, we go to the second round. It was Mike Matthews, Brent Westco, Kyle. I hope I say this right. Monanage.
Manangai.
Mananga, yeah. See, I'm horrible with names. Abu Sama, Jake Merklinger, Ryan Wingo, Taylor Tatum, Jordan Ross was your second IDP to come off at pick 24 overall. So about halfway through the second round, he comes off the board. That's your defensive end for Tennessee. Not
I don't
hating the
even know
pick.
who that guy
I
is, to
think
be honest with you. So
he's a 5-star. He's a freak. Probably going to take over if things go as planned. Would probably be in line to take over for Pierce if Pierce leaves for the draft in 25, which I
there's
would
only
say he
I
likely
mean,
does. If he
I didn't, I did not get the chance to even like from a freshman standpoint. Like there are very few freshman IDP that I even know who they are. Like obviously I know who Sammy Brown is, but like Jordan
right.
Ross, I honestly I couldn't have told you he's a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. I just don't know.
But yeah, he's your second one off the board. Um, then you had Jaden Higgins, Kyron Lacey, Cam Williams, and then we get our third defensive player, and I'm not sure who this is. It's Lee Hunter, a defensive tackle for
Yeah,
UCF.
either.
And then the very next pick was Nick Scourton, the defensive end that transferred from Purdue to Texas A&M. I like that pick. I think he's going to do really well for the Aggies.
So 3 of the first 4 defensive players were all taken by Dougie.
Yep.
Now this
but he told me he needed help on defense.
The Scourton pick I like, and he's someone I could see. Like if it was me personally, I'm probably not spending a second round pick on him. But if I could see myself spending a top 5 round pick somewhere, probably 3, 4, 5 on him. That's probably just kind of looking through here. That's probably the only defensive player that I personally would have taken in the first 5 rounds. I'm just kind of looking to see who else went. Yeah, he's probably the only one that I personally would have taken that early.
I would have in the first 5 rounds. I would have took Sammy Brown in the first 5 rounds.
I mean, I know someone. I would personally do it. I certainly would expect that someone would do it for sure.
Right. And I didn't take a defensive player till, oh gosh, I want to say my first defensive player didn't come, believe this or not, didn't come until the 8th round. That's when I picked my first defensive player. But I needed so much help on offense, and I felt like I could, even if I missed out defensively on some of these guys that I wanted, I felt like there was enough out there for me to grab in later rounds or pick up off the waiver wire to fill out my roster. I just needed so much help on offense because I lost a lot, so I had to focus there.
I actually took one in round 5 and round 6. So
Yeah. So look at you. People think I take defense early, and I waited to round 8, and here's people taking them at pick 105. So,
I took Ernest
after,
Hausman in round 5 and Keon Sabb in round 6.
um, so Scourton went at 29 overall, and this is a 16-team league, by the way. Um, so he went at 29 overall. Then you had to finish the second round. You had Cam Davis, Dylan Bell, and Josiah Trader. Then you come to the third round, and the first pick of the third round was Colin Simmons, defensive end. I like him. He's a 5-star too. Really good player.
I know who
Think
he
he's going
is.
to do
Yeah.
really well in Texas. Yeah. Then the very next pick was KJ Bolden. Really like that pick too. He was somebody that I had on my list, but because I had to focus on offense so early, I missed out. Kind of the same thing with Sammy Brown with them going early and me needing offense. I kind of missed out on a lot of these players, but Bolden is from everything that I've been hearing, even Kirby Smart. He's probably better than Malachi Starks was at this same time when he was a freshman. So if that's the case, that's pretty high praise for Bolden. So uh, he goes with the 34th overall pick, and then we had a run on offense again. You had James Peoples, Mario Anderson, Kedron Young, which was one of my picks, Jordan Marshall, Perry Thompson, Max Johnson, Cameron Cook, Ches Maluzzi, Luke Croman.
Hook.
How do you say that? Luke Croman.
Yeah. Croman Hook.
Luke Croman Hook. Yeah. And then you had another defensive player, Jackson Howard, a defensive end or an edge for
Isn't he a
Minnesota.
transfer, I think? Or is
I
that
think he is. Yes. I'm pretty sure he is. Yes. And then we had Jacoby Lane, a receiver. Then you had Ty Wise. That's somebody we've talked about for the last couple of years that played for Miami of Ohio. And then you had Giovanni Lopez and Denzel Boston rounded out the third round. Um,
now?
so not many. I mean, you had what, one, two, three,
Now Simmons is probably
four,
going to have.
five.
He's probably going to be behind Trey Moore this year, don't you think?
Yeah, he should be. Should be. Yeah.
So I mean, you have to wait for him, but that like you said, that'll pay dividends probably next year, assuming Moore has the year that you expect. The Jackson Howard pick surprises me a little bit, just because I don't know that he needed to take him that high.
I didn't think so either, and I don't know enough about him to really say, but I wouldn't have took him that high, right? I mean, through the first three rounds, you've got 48 picks, and 6 of them were IDP. So it's not like IDP dominated, but with the way the draft was going, I think you could have got a lot of these guys much later.
Yeah, I mean he was he was in LSU. He was the number 1 player in the state of Minnesota in 2023. Went to LSU, didn't do anything at LSU, and then and now is at Minnesota. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like you didn't have to take him that early. And then Ty Wise, to me, great college production, right? But I mean, he plays in the MAC. Like those. I mean, maybe he gets drafted in the NFL. I don't really know off the top of my head, like what he is size wise. Let's see if I can find it. Great college production for sure. I just don't know, like, for taking him that early, right? Like, if I'm going to take a defensive player that early, I feel like they got to have some NFL potential. He's got good size though. He's 6'2", 249. That might be a little bit heavy for the NFL. But yeah, I've not seen any NFL buzz on Ty Wise. Have you?
I have not. I have not. So
And he's
he may
there. He's
just be
there
a
with
college only
Salopek
player,
as
but
well.
yeah,
Great
I
college
love Matthew
production.
Salopek. He's a tackling machine. Yep,
Yeah, I mean, both of them are. They're
absolutely.
both great from a college production standpoint. I just don't know, like,
Oh yeah,
if for me, I'm not taking a guy that's a senior in the third round of a draft. That's a C2C league. That's just I don't know.
And see, I agree with you. Especially somebody that I don't know a whole lot about, like him. I would much rather take a Sammy Brown or a Colin,
Simmons,
who'd I
yeah,
say? Colin
Simmons.
Simmons, yeah. I would much rather take a incoming freshman because I know I have at least 3 years of them on the college side, right? Before I have to make a decision or they move on or whatever. To take a senior that early, I would have to know an awful lot about him, feel really confident in his game and the team he's with, and it would knowing that it's going to be a 1 year rental pretty much. Because if you're not hearing the draft buzz, you know that kind of handcuffs you because that's what C to C is in a way, right? I mean, you can draft players
Yeah,
really young, but you're kind of looking ahead to their NFL projections, right? Because you perfect scenario, you draft a Sammy Brown as an incoming freshman. You keep him for 3-4 years, however long he plays. He's a superstar, and then he goes to the NFL and he continues to be a superstar there. That's the appeal. That's the whole thing to this. If I'm drafting 1 year players, they're going to have to be elite 1 year players, not somebody that's maybe makes the NFL.
I want him
You
to have
know
some NFL talent, right? I mean, not
exactly
maybe not a maybe a 6th round pick or something,
right. So we start the fourth round, Krishan McCray, and then we get our next defensive uh, player, Dylan Stewart. He's a high recruit. I think he was a 5 star too. He goes to South Carolina,
South
which was
Carolina.
sort of a surprise, but he stays in home or stays in state, right? Um, then you got Caden Robinson, Cole Wilson, and then we have another defensive player, Patrick Payton, the defensive end for Florida State, which I like. Um,
Yeah.
if you need an edge rusher, I think he's going to be a pretty good, solid player. But he's a junior, so does he come back next year? Is he off to the
No,
NFL? I'm going to say he's
but I
got
think
some
like him,
NFL
like
potential.
Peyton
So
has some NFL potential for sure.
yeah. Then we've got Rashad Owens, and then we come back with another defense, Chris Cole, the linebacker for Georgia. He's a 5 star. I don't have a problem with this here in the fourth round. If you need a linebacker, you're getting a high recruit for a team that's been a machine pumping out NFL talent defensively.
That's the only
So here in
problem
the
with the
middle of the
problem for me with taking any Georgia players really is like if they don't make it to the NFL, you wasted a pick because you ain't getting college production out of these guys. I mean, at some point he might start, but it might be only 1 year. And like
right,
you're not getting elite. They rotate so much. You're not getting elite level college production. So you're drafting these guys for the NFL. So if you draft a Georgia player and he does not go and he does not go to the NFL, you've wasted a pick.
yeah, because you're going to have to sit and wait to see if and when, right?
Right. And then
As
even
far
when
as
he
college
does
goes,
start,
and then like you said,
you're probably not starting him because he's not giving you like they give you okay production, but they're not giving you like great production on the college side.
right. Then you've got Caden Durham, Will Rogers, Miller Moss, and then we get defensive end Williams Narani. Um, he was one of the top 3 players in the class
Yeah.
country
Yeah. Yeah.
there for a while. He's going to be the defensive end at Missouri, and I think they just lost a defensive end for the season. Did they not? Darius?
Well, they lost Darius Robinson to the NFL.
No, I thought they not Darius. I thought they lost somebody too. Somebody that's still there that got hurt.
I don't know.
They had somebody get hurt, but anyway, um, I like Nowarni. I think he's going to fit in at Missouri. That's a decent pick. Then you had Kawan Lacey, Pat Bryant, and then we had Jackson
Woodard.
uh, Jackson Woodard. My screen's a little funny looking. Linebacker for UNLV. I thought this was early too, which I guess
Again, like it's
All
just
of it's
another,
early, really,
it's another
but
senior from a G5 school that, again, great college production, but are you going to get any NFL out of him? And I just feel like it's super early to take those kind of guys. I mean, I can't argue with the
right,
production he's going to get. He's going to get great college production, and if that's what he's after, he did a great job, right? I just know for me personally, like
right.
if I'm taking a guy that early, like he's got to have some NFL potential, high NFL potential.
Yep. Um, Oh, I forgot what pick was that. Oh yeah, so I picked next with the 15th pick of the round, and I love this. I got Jarrett Gibson, running back for Texas. Um, with the injury, it kind of looks like it's even a better pick now.
Well, and
And then you
then
took,
the other freshman got injured too, Christian Clark. So I think they're down to
yeah,
3 scholarship running backs right now.
yep. And then you followed up with John Mateer. I hope that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Quarterback. Then we go to the 5th round. It's sorry if I cut you off. Just say hey.
No, I mean I would just
Then we
like
go Brent.
I just want to go back. I was gonna let you go through, and then I wanted to go back to some of them, like Dylan Stewart.
Nope, that's fine.
Again, high end talent. South Carolina just never seems to develop the defensive line guys, right? I mean, they recruit the position well, but they never really seem to develop
Yep.
them. And so,
Yeah.
I mean,
When he was being recruited, a lot of people thought he would go elsewhere, but he decided to stay in state. So that was a big get for them when he decided. But yeah, I'm with you. They don't. It seems like their development isn't what it should be, especially with guys like this, right? You would
yeah,
think just their talent alone would get them so far, but
yeah, they just don't seem to develop them much in South Carolina, at least for the defensive line guys. And I do really like the Patrick Payton pick. I mean, he should be the man for
yep,
Florida State this year, and probably one of the upper echelon potential draft picks in the 2025 draft.
yep, I agree. Uh, to the 5th round, I know we're IDP only, but I wanted to kind of rattle off the offense just for some of you that play in offensive leagues, just to kind of have an idea. Um, so up next was Brendan Sorsby, quarterback. Then you had
Johan
I
Cardenas.
can't see it's cutting the name off.
Johan Cardenas.
Cardenas, Walker White, quarterback for Auburn, Kingston, and see some of these long names it's cutting off.
Vilia Amu Asa, I think is that it?
Yeah, he's a linebacker for Notre Dame. I'm not sure
He's a freshman.
who that is. Yeah, he's a freshman. Then you had tight end Caden Creekscorn. Then you come back with Jay-Sean Barnum from Michigan. Then you had defensive end or edge rusher Elijah Rushing, who at one time was committed to Arizona and then flipped that or changed his commitment to Oregon. This is a pretty big get for Oregon. I think he's going to do well for them. I think he's actually going to be what everybody thought Justin Flo was going to be for them. But I like this pick, especially here in the 5th round. This is a really good pick here, I think. Then you have linebacker Chris Paul, who I think for Ole Miss. I like this pick. He's going to see a lot of opportunities down there in Ole Miss. Want to pause? Do you think they make the playoffs? The 12 teams?
I'm sorry, I was looking up the placeholders or placeholder count up. Do I think who's going to make the 12 team?
Ole Miss.
Oh yeah. I think Ole Miss. I think and now I haven't looked at their schedule, so I can't really say this 100%. But like, just based on what I know about the teams in general, I feel like the SEC championship game will be Georgia and Ole Miss.
Nice. Interesting. Okay. Bama's 3rd, you think?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, they lost a lot. But they still have a lot of talent. Yeah, I think I'd probably put them third.
And then fourth,
Probably Tennessee.
yeah. See, I've been seeing a lot of Missouri up there, and I don't get it. Their defensive coaching staff changed. We talked about. Um, they lost some players. They've got some hurt. They lost some on offense. They still got Cook coming back out at quarterback, but Schrader's gone. I just think there's too much turnover and change there for them to be one of the top four in the SEC. But we'll see. Chris Paul, linebacker for Ole Miss.
He,
Then we
he's
had
a
C.J.
transfer
Carr.
from Arkansas. Is that where he came from, Chris Paul?
Yes, he transferred from Arkansas to Ole Miss. Yes, and he did pretty good for Arkansas. Um, I'm sure this is an NIL move, but yeah.
I mean, I think Ole Miss is just kind of going all in this year, right? This is like, I think that's what they're
Yep.
doing, and that's why they make some of these moves.
They were one of the biggest transfer portal movers as far as bringing people in. They hit it hard and they hit a lot of home runs, right? They got some really good talent, and I'm with you with Jackson Dart at quarterback. I think they're kind of pushing all their chips all in here. We'll see how it works out for them. Then you've got C.J. Carr, quarterback for Notre Dame. Then you've got freshman Elijah Groves, a linebacker for NC State. I like him, but I think you could have got him a little later. Um, Jonathan Paylor for NC State was next. Then you got Randall Nodden,
Now
running back
that
for
next one,
Army.
that's what I was looking up. He didn't draft an Army running back. That's Nate. That was a placeholder for Nate Frazier,
Oh
running
yeah,
back from Georgia.
I forgot about our placeholders. Sorry, my apologies. Then you had Aaron Nolan, quarterback for OSU. Then you have Rasheem Thomas, an edge rusher for Northern Illinois. Don't know a lot about him. He's a senior, so
He's
this
he's
is
a
a
high tackle
1 year
guy. He's a
rental.
high tackle guy. Again, like I don't want to call people's names out, but like this particular owner, he did 3 picks in a row. He's taking a senior G5 defensive player. Great college production. So clearly, like what he's looking for is college production, right? I think it's clear by now because
Right,
he's made a similar pick for the last 3 rounds. Personally, it's not something I would personally do,
right,
but clearly, like he had a game plan. His game plan was, I'm getting elite college production, and that's what he did.
right. And that's okay, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I kind of like to
that's
have
the
my
beauty of it,
picks.
right? Everyone can build and do it their own way.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, when I make a pick, I'm kind of looking at a few things. I kind of look at what their pro potential is, right? So we'll go back to a Sammy Brown. Right now, his pro potential is high, right? He's a high recruit. He's going to Clemson where they turn out linebackers. That's Barrett and those guys, Barrett Carter and those guys that's went on to the NFL. So there's a pathway there, right? There's not a lot of competition in front of him at Clemson, so he's probably going to play early, which for me
I
that's
don't
good,
know.
right? Especially if I
I
need a
don't think
linebacker on my Devy team.
he's not starting over Wade Wooders and Barrett Carter.
No, he, but he'll start earlier than he would if he was on a team that was super deep at the position. So I would rather look at younger players with a higher pro floor as to do the 1 year rental high production. Now, if I'm a win now team and I'm only missing a couple pieces, then yeah, hey, give me the defensive end with a high tackle numbers because that may be just what I'm missing, right? So I can see it both ways, but like you said, you can build any way you want to. That's the fun of it. Then we had Arvell Reese, linebacker for OSU, and then Ernest Hausman, linebacker from Michigan, and I believe he transferred from Nebraska the year before last. I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yep. So this is his second year at Michigan. Yep. He was at Nebraska, transferred to Michigan last offseason. What? So this is, I find this interesting because I was in a couple drafts and it happened the same way. Um, Folks really like Barham more than Houseman, and I'm opposite. Like I like Houseman more than Barham. What are your thoughts?
I like Houseman too. I liked him when he was at Nebraska. You know, what I saw from him, I thought, he's got good size, can run, uh, can cover. So I was kind of surprised to see him leave Nebraska, to be honest with you. But I think with going to Michigan, I think he fits what they want to do too, right? So,
The
um,
the
yeah,
Barham
I
thing,
have him ahead of Barsham.
I just don't quite get all the Barham hype. Like Barham's definitely getting more hype, and he's going earlier in the drafts,
Yes,
because he's getting more hype. But I
exactly.
personally don't see it. Like I was never super impressed with him at Maryland, and now he's going to a bigger
Right.
stage, a bigger team, and like, I mean, I don't know. Like I personally don't see it with him, but obviously I am in the minority.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And like you said, I've liked
We
Houseman
start
since
this.
Nebraska, and so I don't know. Like I'll take the
Yeah,
discount on Houseman all day long.
yeah. I mean, you're getting him at with the last pick of the sixth or fifth round, so pick 80. That's that's not horrible, right? I mean,
Yeah,
considering what we've already seen go ahead of him.
and the other thing I was gonna say is like the fifth round is when like you see this kind of big shift, right? It's kind of like you see a shift to a lot
Yes,
more defensive players going off the board here, starting around 5. I mean, there was what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So half the picks were defense. Before that, we were only getting what like 3 or so around. So kind of a big shift there, starting around 5.
right. Now we should say we've got some. This league, 16 teams, has got a good mix of first time owners, new owners, right? Compared to like, it's got me, you, um, Kyle Bellfield's in this league. We've got Dwight Peoples in this league. Um, we got Austin in this league from C to C. So there's a good mix of, I don't want to say smarter owners, but owners that's been around for a little while, plus new owners, right? Like Dougie, he kind of jumped into this with us. So um, we're starting the sixth round. Yes, the sixth round. Uh, Benjamin, man, it's
Brahmer,
cutting the names off and I can't see.
Brahmer,
Benjamin Brahmer, Iowa State. Yep. Then you've got Jacob Manu, the linebacker from Arizona. Don't hate the pick, but
Well,
I think you could wait.
here's the thing for me for about Manu. Again, it's elite college production, and he's I don't know why. I don't know why. I guess he is a junior. Yeah, he is a junior, but he didn't really play much until last year. And and the thing, and again, elite college production, but he's 5'11", and so
Right.
I don't. I don't. He could be the next Zach Thomas, but I wouldn't want to bet money on it. Like so.
right.
I just don't see. I don't, because of his size, I don't know that the NFL's in his future. But great college production.
Right. I mean, yeah, 116 tackles last year, 9.5 for a loss, 6.5 sacks, and an interception. So, like you said, really good college production. But with him being 5'11",
Right. He could be
if
short,
he's
right?
even
If
that,
the
he may
roster
be a
says
stud.
5'11", is he really
Right.
5'10", 5'9"? I don't
Right.
know.
Exactly. Again, we've seen it happen before, but
It can happen. It's just
yeah,
not something I'd be betting on.
right. Especially this early. Um, then you had wide receiver J.C. Brown, uh, wide receiver Demir Blanken.
Blankency.
It's cutting these names off. Lakency, yep. Then you had Braylon Staley, wide receiver, Tennessee. Nick Marsh, wide receiver, Michigan State. Then we had Kobe McLeod, linebacker for Clemson. Has some NFL DNA. His brother is Ray McLeod that plays. He's a sophomore, so after Woodaz and Carter, you've got this group coming up. Jamal Anderson's son's in here. McLeod's in here. You've got Sammy Brown, who they just recruited coming in as a freshman. So maybe not this year, but next year you're going to see a completely different linebacking group, which I expect Sammy Brown to be right in the mix. But one of these other guys, maybe McLeod or Anderson, if I had to pick, I think it's going to be McLeod. I think he's just a little bit further along than what Anderson is, but I don't hate the pick here in the sixth round. If you need a linebacker, you're just going to have to wait till probably next year or a significant injury, or maybe two. Because I think if there's an injury to one of the starters, Woodaz or Carter, Brown's probably going to get the look, and then you'd have one of these guys come up next. Tight end Luke Reynolds, Penn State. Wide receiver Keelan Billett for LSU. Tight end Landon Thomas for Florida State. Jermiah McClendon, is that right?
McClellan.
See, it's cutting the end of these names off. My apologies. Wide receiver for Oregon. Then you've got Cam Edwards for UConn. Then you've got Aaron Childs, linebacker, incoming freshman for Florida. I can see the potential there, right? Florida's could be in a world of trouble this year. They're still trying to build their depth. So, if you've got room to take a flyer on a player like that, then I like it because I think the opportunities will be there in a couple of years. A year or two for him. Then you had running back Lee Beebe, tight end Gavin Hoffman, and we ended the round with Keon Sabbs, safety of Alabama, and he's a transfer from Michigan. I liked him at Michigan. I really like him in Alabama, especially now that our boy Caleb Downs is gone, right?
I mean, that's kind of where he's taking over Caleb Downs' spot, right? And so when he was still there, exactly. I was happy, man. I was happy. I was shocked no one had taken him yet. Especially with Kyle. Kyle must be pissed off at him because he left Michigan, I guess. That's the only reason I think that Kyle didn't take him.
Well, I had him on my board right here, and I thought, well, because I went and got Braylon Staley because I needed wide receiver help, and then I come back and got. I probably should have, in retro hindsight, I should have took him here because I had 3 picks. I took Braylon Staley, then I took Cam Edwards, and then I took Gavin Hoffman, the freshman tight end for Iowa. But I needed so much help, I thought, well, I'll wait and get him the next round, and then you took him and sniped me. So thanks a lot.
I'm pretty sure you got me at some point in this draft too. There was, let me see. I thought you did. Yeah. Round 9. You got me in round 9.
Oh.
So.
Okay. So we got. Oh yeah. Which shocked me too, but we'll get there. So round 7.
You got me twice in round 9. I was like, oh man.
Twice.
Yeah. You got me twice in round 9.
Oh really? Oh, okay. I didn't expect that, but okay. So round 7, we got Taylor Green, quarterback, Arkansas. He's the Boise State transfer.
Real quick.
Yep.
Oh gosh, Aaron Childs. That's it's an interesting pick there, Florida. They don't have a lot of depth, and a lot of in front of them. You got is it Miles Graham, and then probably Grayson Howard probably in front of them. But that's probably it. So he probably gets some run this year. I would expect. I wouldn't expect him to start, but he probably gets some run, gets part of the rotation. I do like that Aaron Childs pick there, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good value. I mean, it's 6th round. It's probably, like we said all night long, right? probably could have got him a little later, but the way the draft's starting to lay out, that's kind of right in par where he should be, right? I mean, once that ball starts rolling downhill of going early,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
kind of have to adjust your
I
draft
think
board.
that was good value for sure. I think it was good value.
Yeah. And I'm trying to pull up their depth chart here real quickly because it seems like they had one more person. Let's see who it was here. If I can get this.
Well, they had
Real
Scooby
quick.
Williams. He transferred to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They just Miles Graham and Grayson
I
Howard
wanted
like
to.
the two in front of them.
Maybe this thing's loading, so we'll see what it is here. Oh, here it goes. So linebacker, they have Shamar James. He's more of an edge. TJ Searcy, he's an edge. He's a sophomore. And then they've got Derek Wingo. That's who I was thinking of, Derek Wingo, the high recruit. But he's been there forever and really hasn't panned out, right? So, and then you've got Grayson Howard, RJ Moten, who's a senior. So, yeah, Aaron Childs is a 4-star. So, yeah, and looking at some of the grades on him, he could see a pretty good, decent role this year as a freshman, I think. You're probably right, though. I don't think there's a whole lot in front of him. Probably Grayson Howard and Shamar James are your best two linebackers, and James is more of an edge than he is a true inside the guy. So, 7th round, quarterback Taylor Green, who transferred from Boise. Then we had Chandler Martin from Memphis as the next one. Desmond Williams, quarterback Washington. Jordan Lyle, running back Miami. Caleb Johnson, running back Iowa. Roy Dale Williams, running back Florida State. Jeffrey Bassa, linebacker / defensive back for Oregon. And Dougie got me right here because this is after you took Keon Sabb. I had to adjust because I really needed a safety. So I had my safeties lined up here, and this was the next one I had on my board. He took Corey Parrish, the running back, the safety for Minnesota. So if you watch the Under Armour All-American game, he had a huge performance in that game with an interception, forced fumble. With Tyler Nubin gone now in Minnesota, I think that, he went off to the NFL. So I think there's a little bit of a path for him there to get some early playing time because it's kind of like the Florida linebacker deal. They don't have a whole lot in front of him. So, but Dougie snatched him away, which left me reeling again. After that, we took Xavier Jordan, wide receiver. Then we have Brian McCoy, linebacker from Akron. I don't know much about him. Then you had Matthew Fuller, running back South Carolina. Javon Jackson, running back UTEP. Here's another pick that I like. Cassius Howell, the transfer from the MAC school. It's leaving my brain.
Bowling Green?
Bowling Green, yes, thank you. So he transferred from Bowling Green to Texas A&M, and he's going to be playing opposite of Nick Scarleton. So they've got two incoming transfers for their pass rush, and I think both of them are going to have pretty good years. If I had to pick one, I'd take Hal because I think, the value that he was drafted at here versus where Scourton was drafted, right, is a lot better. You're looking at, 3-4 rounds later? And plus, I think Scourton's going to gain most of the attention. So Hal's going to be left in some one-on-one situations I think he can take advantage of. So I just think overall, Hal's probably a little better play college-wise, but I think Scourton's got more NFL potential. So, and then Reggie Peterson, linebacker from Florida International. Then linebacker Francisco Mauiala for Miami. And then we end with Joshua Meredith, the receiver from Washington State. So we saw a lot of linebackers go 1, 2, 3, you saw 5 linebackers, a defensive end, and a safety this round. So
The
you're looking at 7, 8 players again.
Chandler Martin pick. I like that pick. Super productive guy. I think he does have some NFL potential as well. Um, I do wonder how much his production's going to be impacted by the addition of Elijah Herring. Right, Elijah Herring transfers from
Yep.
Tennessee. He was the leading tackler for Tennessee a year
Yep.
ago. Again, I think Memphis kind of reminds me of like Ole Miss, and the Power Four. Memphis kind of like on the G5 side. I think like they realize, hey, this is our shot right here, buddy. Let's go for it. They bring in Elijah Herring. Defense was their weakest, point last year. But they got a strong 1-2 punch there with Martin and Herring. But I do question how much Herring's presence is going to affect Martin's production this year. And then,
because Martin, as a sophomore last year, had 95 tackles, 17 for a loss, 3 sacks, and 2 picks. Returned one of them for a touchdown.
He moved.
He was
up
a big player for them last year.
He was, but he moved up. He was. He came from the FCS. I want to say like Tennessee Martin or something. Like he came from a smaller school. Went to Memphis and then shined last year. I do have a little bit of worry, like in terms of what his college production is going to look like now that Elijah Herring is going to be there with him. The Bossa pick, yeah, I like that. I mean, he's going to be a starting linebacker for the Oregon Ducks. I don't know that it's a very lucrative spot in terms of college production. I have seen his name mentioned some in terms of NFL. I don't know anything about the safety, the Minnesota safety, but obviously you like them, so I don't know anything about.
Yeah, I first found him in like I said, the Under Armour All American game, and man, he put on a show there, and I was like, oh, okay. So naturally, once somebody pops, I like to go back and watch their high school tape, and he was doing the same thing all year in high school. He's an impact player. Now I know that's kind of a little sketchy to rely on the big plays, right? The interceptions and sacks and block kicks and all that, but some players just have a nose for it, and he seems to be one of those players that is always around the ball making plays. And going to Minnesota where they just lost Tyler Nubin to the NFL, they don't have a whole lot in front of him. I like the pick. And had he still been on the board there, that would have been who I would have took, especially with having 3 to 4 years of possible control in college before I have to make a decision. So just kind of like that pick. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Brian McCoy, I don't really know anything about him. Cassius Howe, I like the player. I am a little concerned in the step up in competition, right? He's going from the MAC to the SEC. That's a pretty big jump. Positive that he's positive here that he's like getting going to be the starter on the opposite side of Scourton. But I don't know. I just feel like when folks make that jump, you have to be realistic in your expectations, and you can't expect the same level of production, right? Because that's a pretty significant jump. Reggie Peterson, love the Reggie Peterson pick. Donovan Manuel's gone. Reggie Peterson should have a outstanding season in terms of college production. And then the Francisco Maga, I don't mind that pick either. I've seen his name mentioned on some NFL draft boards. So yeah, couple of picks that I don't know anything about, but a couple of really solid picks too.
Yeah, and it's hard to know every single player because there's so many players and teams in college. It's just hard to know them all. But we're going to move to the 8th round, and I'm just going to go straight with the defensive players as we're getting a little long here, and I don't want to waste too much time. But your next defense was Miles Purchase, defensive back for Iowa State. I don't know much about him. After that, you had Xavier Nwankpa, the safety for Iowa. Love that. They've had, the last 3-4 years, they've been churning out defensive backs. Cooper DeJean, they got Sebastian Castro up there now, and then Wonka is in line to be one of the next big stars there at Iowa. And he's a 5-star guy. Liked his tape. I think he's got some NFL potential, like you were talking about. After that, it was me. Here's where I took my first defense player, and I was kind of shocked that he was still there, and that's Devin Grant, who transferred to Syracuse, right? So huge tackler, ball hawk, had to have a safety because I was really thin at safety, and I was like, I cannot let him slide after getting burnt with some of the other ones sliding. So I took him there. Kyle picked after me, and he took Dante Corley on the defensive tackle. I like the player. There's a lot of buzz NFL-wise around him, right?
Yeah.
But the blood clots, that's the thing, right? And
That's
it seems like he's okay, and they're hoping to get him back. And they're hoping to get him back at some point this year. But in the 8th round, for me, that's just too risky. I mean, I like the player, and if he's healthy, then I could probably justify it. But with the blood clots, I think you have to wait on that. Just my thought personally. Then our next one was, let's see, R.J. Oben, defensive end for Notre Dame. And that was the last. So that round, we only had a few, just a handful of defensive players. I like my Devin Grant, and I think the Xavier and Wonka was the best two of the group.
Yeah, I liked it in Xavier and Wonka. I'm just trying to remember back. I'm pretty sure I was going to take him that round and got sniped. So, that one stung a little bit. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I got sniped on all my top 4 safeties because you took Sab, then I switched to Parrish, he got gone, then I switched to Nwampa, he's gone, and I was like, there's no way I'm letting Devin Grant get by me if he makes it to me.
Yeah, I was fortunate to get one. I got Sab, so I mean I'm happy with that. But yeah, I had planned to take in Nwampa here and got sniped.
Yep. The 9th round, Jabbar Muhammad, defensive back for Oregon. Then you had Wade Woodaz, linebacker for Clemson. I needed some linebacker help, so I took him there. Your next one was Wayne Matthews, linebacker from Michigan State. I believe he used to be a Monarch, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
He used to be old Monarch.
Yep. And then you have Fred Johnson, linebacker, South Carolina. Bo Frailer, defensive back for Iowa State. I like that pick. And then you had the steal of the draft. Can't believe that you slacked around and let me get the steal of the draft with one Mr.
I was.
But Shea Taylor, linebacker of Ohio.
I got you. You sniped me twice in that round with Wooders and
I did not know that you was after Wade
and Shea Taylor. You sniped me twice, man, and yeah. I had planned to take.
I had no clue about Wooders.
I had planned to take Wooders, and then you sniped him. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll take Shea Taylor, and then you take Shea Taylor. Yeah, man. I really like both of those picks, and like you said, I like the Bo Frailer pick too.
Yeah, that was a good pick. I was shocked that Taylor was still there because I thought, okay, he doesn't reach for defensive players very much, and we've interviewed him. If he likes him, he's going to take him pretty soon. And I was like, man, I can't wait much longer. I know Justice is going to take him. I was kind of shocked you let him fall that far, but I was like, man, if he goes to the 10th round, he'll never make it back to me. So, speaking of the 10th round, we had Michael Carmera, edge rusher for Indiana. Then we had Derek Weiskopf, linebacker for Iowa. Tylen Singleton, linebacker for LSU. CJ Nunley, edge for Akron. Dayon Hayes, edge / defensive tackle for Colorado. Then you had John Nestor, safety for Iowa. Alexander,
Tubner.
I can't see his name. Alexander Tubner, safety for Boise. Then you had Marquise Lightfoot, edge for Miami. Jamari Caldwell, I think I think, for Oregon. Aiden Huntington, edge for Tulane. And that was it for that round. So a lot of defensive players. I loved the Marquise Lightfoot for an edge. I think he's going to be one of the next pretty good pass rushers down there in Miami. He's a high recruit. Some of these others I'm not sure about. I like the John Nestor pick, the safety for Iowa. I think him and Wankler are going to just rule that defense back there for them. CJ Nunley, I actually like that pick for Akron. He's not going to give you a whole lot, but he's going to get you a whole lot of sacks in TFL, right? And then the Weiskopf, at this point, I was looking towards future, right? So Iowa, high tackle numbers, great defenses. I was like, okay, Weiskopf is probably a couple years away. He's an incoming freshman, but the opportunities are there, so I kind of like the fit there. That's why I took him.
I like the CJ Nunley pick. I also like the Aiden Huntington pick. Aiden Huntington was super productive at Louisiana Monroe. I guess if I had a concern, is, Louisiana Monroe is not a very good team, and so was his production because the defense is on the field so much? It's very slight concern there, but I mean, like everything I've heard about him as far as Tulane goes positive. So I do like that Aiden Huntington pick. I don't know if you're planning on stopping after this round, but I just kind of had a general thought, a general something that I saw in this draft and I saw in another draft I'm in, and it really took me by surprise, and I wasn't prepared for it. And if you play in a league that requires defensive tackle, like it gets thin really, really quick. And
yes,
like
it does.
and that both these drafts I was in, well, mainly this one, was what caused it. Like I started looking at my roster, I was like, well, crap, I need some defensive tackles. And then I started looking around, and like everybody like I had on my list, they're all long gone. And so I started panicking,
Right.
and I was like, well, shit, there isn't any room really left. And yeah, that was a mistake on my part.
Which could have been the reason that Kyle took Corleone so early.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's if it's that thin and he needed a D tackle, maybe that's why he took a shot on him, there.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you, like, and I'm in 2 leagues that require D tackles, and both of them, I was like, it's kind of like when I started scrambling in this league, I was like, well, let me go check this other league. I'm like, well, shit, it's the same situation. Like, I waited too long. I waited way too long, and
right.
I was left scrambling for sure. So if you're in a league that requires defensive tackle, you probably gotta take them earlier than you're comfortable with, just because like the position is not super deep.
Yeah, it's not like edge or linebacker or safety or even corner, right? Like all the other positions are.
You can wait
pretty
on the
deep.
other ones, man.
Defensive tackle is not.
The defensive tackle,
right.
you can't wait at all, man. Like you just can't.
Especially if you want one that's got a lot of production or NFL potential.
Right.
You're like you said, you're probably going to take him a lot earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. I won't read off all these. We'll just kind of look at the round. So we're headed into round 11. The name that sticks out to me here in round 11, there was only 2 or 3 picks defensively, but Josiah Stewart here in round 11 has some NFL potential. We've talked about him on the show. His time at Coastal Carolina, I believe it was, where he broke out.
Yeah.
Kind of changed as he's went to Michigan, but he's changed the position, how he plays, where he's playing, right? Um, but with NFL potential, I thought he was the best pick of the 11th round there. Same for you.
Yeah. And then round 12, I would say the David Stone pick. That's a steal. That late.
Yes, it is. So, and it goes back to what you were saying, right? Leagues that say make you start defensive tackles, bang, right there you are, a 5-star recruit. He was top 5, top 10 in that recruiting class for most of the year. Going to an Oklahoma team that usually does pretty well with their defensive linemen, right? They usually get pretty good production out of them. So, yeah, I think that's definitely still there in the 12th. The 13th round, I would probably say, let's see here. Well, 13th round, I'm going to say my pick, Boo Carter. At the time, I didn't quite know it, right? Um, he's the freak athlete that stayed home, in-state talent that stayed home with the balls. But since then, I talked earlier about Jordan Thomas, who was in line to be the starter for that at the star position. It now looks like Boo Carter is going to be a starter as a true freshman at the star. It's between him and Christian Harrison, son of Rodney Harrison that played in the NFL. So it's between them two, but all accounts looks like that Boo's going to win that job. At very least, he's probably going to be the starter week 1. Harrison will play a lot, and they'll kind of maybe try to decide there. But Boo's going to be in on kick returns and punt returns. If he can win this job, I think that's in the 13th round. I think that's a steal for a player you're probably going to have 3-4 years of.
Round 14, again, the same owner that took David Stone got LJ McCray, a steal. A steal that late.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with my Price Yates there. That's a defensive tackle. He plays some edge for UConn, but he gets a pretty good number of sacks. He's in that 6 to 8 sack area. So for an interior defensive lineman, I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I like the LJ McCray. I thought that was pretty good. 15th round, I would probably say, well, we didn't have a whole lot, did we?
No,
Oh,
I mean, for me, it's probably Trey Rucker, but
I would. Yeah, that's who I was going to say. Thanks a lot. You stole my guy again.
I mean, just
16th round, we're getting close here. 16th round, I think it's either Tyler Grubbs, the linebacker for Tulane, or I'm going to say my pick again, Mario Thompson, the linebacker for OD.
Yeah,
and I wanted to ask you about this.
He's going to be one of the starters, but
I know you still have Henderson, but is this more of a play? And this was my thought, right? Henderson's still there, so he's going to be the lead dog, going to eat up a lot of tackles. But next year, Thompson's going to be that guy, right? So I think the volume really comes his way.
I don't know if they'll put him at middle linebacker. I think they like his.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they like his coverage ability, so I think he'll stay on the outsides. But it's certainly possible, right? We don't know, right? We don't know. I mean, Jason Henderson will be gone next year, and so it's certainly within the realm of possibility for sure. And he's going to be Mario's going to be a starter this year, so yeah, I like the Tyler Grubbs pick as well. I'm kind of shocked you didn't already own him and that you let someone else have him.
Right. Well, when he come off the board, I was kind of shocked that I didn't own him as well. I was like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here. But yeah,
round 17.
I was also.
Oh, go ahead.
I kind of had. Ooh. No, go ahead.
Round 17.
I know what my pick in 17 is.
I tell you the pick I like, and the downside is they're going to have to wait. But I like the Javante Mackey pick. But he's out for the year. He ain't playing this year, so you're going to have to wait for him for a year. But you go fast forward to next year, Herring and Martin could both be gone at Memphis. And so I really like that Javante Mackey pick for future play.
I'm not going to say who the owner is, but I'm shocked that the player went here in the 17th round, especially considering his brothers in the NFL and had success as a rookie. And that's Deshaun Pace. I honestly thought he would go much higher than this.
I think I mean, there's a knock on it's his he's not his brother. He's small. He's a small guy. He's really more of a, I don't know, safety per se than a linebacker, right? He's more of like a hybrid, I guess.
Yeah, but I was just playing off yeah, he is. But I was just playing off of his brother's fame, right? Where he's kind of made the NFL and made a name for himself. You know, some owners will eat that stuff up and they'll jump on a brother or whatever. So I thought he would be gone before now. So, round 18. There was a couple picks here I like. I think the best pick is Aaron Graves, defensive tackle for Iowa. Gets pretty good, a lot of sacks. I know we've talked about Iowa a lot, but they do good with their defensive linemen, right? They do good with their defense, period. But that's because they like to ground and pound. They fit what the Big Ten does, right? That's what the Big Ten is for the most part. There's a lot of grounding and pounding. So, and they've got one of the best defensive in the country. So, again, to your point, defensive tackle, if you can find one that can give you production, you better grab him. So, in the 18th round, I thought that was a really good pick.
Yeah, I like that, but I think my favorite is probably the Carson Bruner pick, the linebacker from Washington.
Yeah, that was a good one. Round 19,
Trey Freeman, Duke.
D'Angelo Pons.
The Pons, yeah.
Yep, Dominique DeLuca. Yeah.
Trey Freeman's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And he should see a lot of tackles there for Duke this year. And probably next year too, because I don't think he leaves early. So I think he's got 2 more years there and does good. We'll wrap it up here in just a minute. Round 20.
Jordan Birch, man. Like, that seems like a steal that late.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of who I was looking at. Yeah, so that pick 316, you're getting Jordan Birch, defensive end, defensive tackle eligibility. Round 21, Tyreek Chappell. That's a defensive back that we've named on the show a few times.
Yep. Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot in round 21, so I'm going to say Edwin Spillman, the incoming freshman for Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Keenan Peely's going to be gone after year, so he doesn't have any eligibility after this year. So, you know, they've got Arian Carter, who's going to be starting next to him, but starting next year, I think Spillman is going to be playing next to Carter. And words is, when you watch him play, but some of the coaches, William N just said, you know when he's on the field. And it's not just him barking at you, it's his play, because he will flat out hit you. So kind of I kind of like that pick there in the round 21. Ooh, we had 25, so we'll run through these real quick. Round 22, the one that stands out to me is probably
I'd say Chase Klein, maybe Eastern Michigan. They lost Sparacio.
Eastern Michigan, yeah, I would agree with that.
So he should be in line for some production.
Yeah, round 23, you've got, it's getting pretty thin when you're getting this deep into, and normally we only do 10 rounds, but we expanded rosters, so we expanded the draft to help fill those rosters. That's why it's so deep. Round 23, I would probably say Aeneas Peebles.
Yeah, defensive tackle.
I
Yeah.
know he's a senior, but the defensive tackle for Virginia Tech. Round 24, Eric Gentry, linebacker for USC. Um, DeRicky Wright, safety for Vanderbilt. That's a couple names that we've named the past few years.
DJ Lundy's supposed to be the starter for Florida State, so that could be productive.
Yeah. And that's great value at 383rd pick overall to get a starter. Now that I can get behind, right? 1 year guy, well, 1 year for college.
Yeah.
But even if he doesn't go to the NFL at pick 383, that's pretty darn good value. And then round 25.
Mike, the ones that stand out to me the most are Michael Powell, right? The kid from Washington, like at safety.
Yep.
That seems like a steal at pick 393. And then I like the Jaden Vosen pick, another safety for South Alabama at 398.
Yeah.
Those two, I like both of those safety. And then Aaron Flowers, freshman at Oregon, another safety.
Yep. Yeah, those are good. I mean, you're getting slim pickings. I mean, we picked 400 players in this draft, offense and defense. So,
and we already had rosters that were what, like 50.
I thought it was. We expanded
60.
from 50.
Maybe I think we were at 60. I think we went from 60 to 70. I think we increased it 15 spots, something like that. Or maybe it was 55.
Yeah,
we went
I think so.
20
Yeah.
spots. I don't know.
Yeah, because we increased. Yeah, it was something like that. But yeah, so that's our draft. I thought it was interesting. Clearly, it was from the get go because Dougie took Sammy Brown at 105, which set off a whole chain of reaction of utter bullshit. I got sniped some. I was pretty happy with my team. I would have probably took some defense a little earlier than the 8th round. But looking at my roster, I had to go offense. So it kind of sucked just sitting there watching these guys that I wanted IDP wise kind of come off the board. I mean, I guess I could have took them if I'd have really wanted them, but I had to go offense. So I was pretty happy with my draft overall.
Yeah, same.
Did you like what you did?
I did. I mean, like,
cool.
I waited too long on defensive tackle. I waited way too long. So if I could do it over,
now that you mention it, and me looking back, that was a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said your other league was the same way, right?
Yeah, I waited too long. I just didn't realize the position was so scarce, and I wasn't really paying attention, and it bit me in the butt for sure. That's probably That's my biggest regret is I waited too long on defensive tackles.
Yeah, and I was kind of shocked that I got Price Yates. Where did I tell you I got him? I got him in the 14th round, and I was kind of shocked because one of our league mates, Joey the Tooth, who you all know, he's a big Connecticut fan, so I thought for sure he would grab him, and he didn't. So thank you, Joey. I'll take that gift.
Yeah, because he's.
But I thought it was a pretty good draft
he's
overall.
Connecticut in the league, right? So
he is. I thought him or Todd because Todd's a UMass fan, so he's up from that area too. I thought one of them two for sure would take Yates.
Yeah. I agree.
Any other thoughts on our draft that we didn't? I know we kind of rambled on about players, but you talked about defensive tackle.
That was
got to
really
get it early.
That's really the one that kind of stood out to me. I think linebacker
Yeah.
super deep. Defensive tackle super scarce.
And there wasn't a lot of corners win either. Corners are not scarce, but they're so plentiful. I think a lot of people just said,
no, but
hey,
a couple. I mean, like
waivers.
Siobhan Ravel went. He's a He's a top corner that
Right.
I remember seeing his name late. And there was someone else. Oh, the freshman Ellis Robinson from Georgia should be a top-notch corner. Yeah, those
Oh
ones
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stood out for me. They went what I would consider fairly late.
Yep. Yeah. Like you said, linebackers hot and heavy, a deep position, but that's your bread and butter on IDP, right? Because of the tackles and the solos and all that. So I thought everybody drafted pretty well, except for Dougie. You know, he sucks, but whatever. No, I thought he did well too. I just wouldn't have took Brown that early, but things like that happen, right? I mean, it. I guess my point is, no matter how prepared you are, or what your draft board is, or what you're set up, right? You have to be able to adjust when something doesn't go your way. Dougie taking Sammy Brown at 105. You being surprised that the defensive tackle position was so thin, right? You know, once you started looking at it, you're like, oh shit, I've got to do something here. I've got to get a defensive tackle. So these drafts are never going to go the way you plan them. You have to be able to adjust. And I think the fantasy managers that can do that the best and not panic, I think are generally the ones that come out on top, you know, as far as their roster makeup. They usually have pretty good IDP rosters. So anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, the other thing is, there wasn't. We didn't have to use a lot of placeholders, and so I mean,
No, we did not.
kudos to Fantrax for kind of like nailing that down.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of placeholders at all.
No, we only had
So that was
4.
our Devy IDP. Yeah, that was our Devy IDP Grind Listener League draft. If you have any questions, hit me and Justice up. We'd be more than happy to go back and talk over some of this. You know, if you want to hit us up, certain players, where did so and so go? What do you think about him? Whatever. But just some names. I thought it would be helpful to hear the names of some players that are going, kind of get an idea of what round they're drafted in. You know, our thoughts on, is it too early? Was it too late? You know, etc. I find that stuff kind of interesting because I think I don't know about you, but I hate mock drafts. I hate mock drafts. I don't do them anymore. I really don't even look at them anymore per se because there's so much false information in a mock draft, right? Because I think for me, I would go into a mock draft and not pick players on purpose just to see
Yeah,
where they're going to go in the draft, right?
Absolutely. You got to take mock drafts kind of somewhat with a grain of salt, right? I mean, when people don't have skin in the game, they're not.
I mean, I guess they are beneficial, but
yeah,
exactly. So now I do the rookie drafts for the NFL side. I do keep a spreadsheet on that, but that's actual drafts, so that's different. So you know, I like those a lot more than a mock draft because you're actually seeing, okay, this is what these owners are doing. This is what they're thinking. This is where they're taking these players. So for me, I think you get more out of those kind of drafts, actual rookie drafts or C to C drafts, IDP Devy drafts, than you do the mocks. So just kind of something to throw out there. We want to thank y'all for helping us grow. We have seen quite the little bit of increase here the last week or so. We're up to 549 on Twitter now. We're 54 on Discord. We're moving up on YouTube 30. I know those numbers are small, but we're getting there. We're starting to grow a little bit. So keep spreading the word. Thank you. Feel free to hit me up at Hollywood Titan. You can hit Justice up at Justice_2318. You can find us at Devy IDP Grind. Go subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Go over to our YouTube page, follow us, subscribe there, and go follow Justice's other podcast that he does with Lucas, the G5 Hive. Probably one of my favorite Devy shows out there. You guys do a great job. So much information. Really helps me because I'm so in tune with doing IDP stuff. I don't always get to look at offense like I should. So your all show, the Worker Bee series and all that was amazing. So if you've not checked them out, go over and check that out. G5 Hive. It's good stuff. Subscribe, rate, and review there. We will be back next Wednesday, and I'm assuming we're going to have football to talk about here.
Well, yeah, week 0 games. We got there's 4 games, four week 0 games that we can talk about. Yep.
And my full college football degenerism is going to be on full display Saturday. I'm going to wake up. I've got some grilling I got to do for one of my aunts that live back here behind us where they're having a little get together. So I'm going to wake up and do her grilling for her. And then we've got Florida State and Georgia Tech kicking off at noon. And then we've got games all day long. We've even got a game at midnight. So it's probably going to be 3 or 4 in the morning before I go to bed because I'm watching Hawaii lay the beat down on Delaware State. That's going to happen.
Yep.
You?
I'm looking forward to all the games, man. You got Georgia Tech and Florida State. Hawaii playing Delaware State. Did Delaware State ever make it there yet? I don't know if you saw, but they missed their flight.
Yeah, they did make it there. I was listening to y'all talk about the other night, you and Lucas. They did make it there, but they had to split their team up, I think, on a couple different flights to get there. But they were supposed to make it in time and be good to go. So that's good to see. Is Hawaii going to cover the 38-point spread, you think?
I think
That's
so.
a lot of points.
It's a
lot of points, but yeah. College football's back. Can't wait to watch the games, and of course we'll start breaking down these games, seeing how wrong we were, how right we were about some players. I'm just glad football's back. I have been bored out of my mind since the Super Bowl ended. Other than the combine and the draft, other than that, it's been pretty boring. I've had to sit here and watch baseball and basketball, and I don't like it. So I go to YouTube and watch high school videos or high school football videos. So that's how I know so much about the high school stuff. But we'll be back next week. Thank you for following. We appreciate your loyalty to us. Help spread the word. And we will see you all next week. And with that, we are out.